Hello and welcome to the Goldenrod Podcast. I'm Ben. As always, I'm joined by fellow Pokemon enthusiast Conor to bring you some of the latest and greatest Pokemon news and a few laughs along the way. This week, we're discussing Pokemon Go's Max Out event, and then we'll be diving into the definitive tier list of rivals from the mainline Pokemon games. As always, you can jump to a topic using the timestamps in the description below. Conor, I'm back.
I was going to say, I'm so glad I didn't have to do that this week.
Did you hate it? How was it?
Different.
Yeah?
I missed you. Let's put it that way.
I think at one point you actually said something along the lines of like, oh, I don't normally do this. Ben usually does this. And I can't remember if it was something to do with a comment or...
I didn't know how to transition. You say what happens in the episode, and then it was like, so, Lewis, how are you? I guess that's what happens now, right? I don't know how he gets from one bit to the other.
You got those segues and those like talking points to get you there. Speaking of which, I am like, of all the episodes for me not to be available on, that was the one that I really wanted to be on because just the breakdown of worlds and the controversies and what was revealed and everything else. I remember listening back to it, and it was so weird because obviously we talk pretty much every single week, and then I've met Louis several times, and we've like geeked out when we've gone out for food and drinks and everything in person, and it was so weird listening to you two talk, and I'm like, I can't join in this conversation.
It's odd being on that side of it, isn't it? It's like, but really this is my podcast.
It was so strange, but at the same time, I really did enjoy just being able to take a step back and just listen and everything else like that. And it was fantastic. And Louis, thank you so much for stepping in. I really do appreciate it. And of course, Conor, thanks to you as well for stepping up, shall we say?
It's not a worry. Don't make me do it again.
Okay, let's move on to the first topic then. This is the Pokemon Go Max Out event. So my notes for this are from before it came out. So I'm going to come at this from a different angle because instead of talking about what is coming up, I'm going to talk about what I've been doing in Pokemon Go. So for those who don't know, up until December the 3rd, the Max Out event basically has brought in dynamax raids to Pokemon Go. Something brand new, completely different, and a little bit confusing, I must admit, because what basically happened, Conor, to set the scene, is obviously in Pokemon Go, you've got the gyms, you have got the Pokediscs that you can spin. Now you have a third popping up entry, which is the Dynamax dens, whatever they're called. I'm not sure what they're power spots. They're power spots. Mm-hmm. And these are just random purple things. We've seen the artwork of these before. But what is really weird about them is they're just popping up in random places. So I have one literally at the end of my street. So not close enough for me to just do it from my house. I have to walk out, but it's like a 20-second walk down the road, and I can access this power spot. And the power spots seem to cycle around. So I'm hoping that at some point I'll have a power spot pop up from my house that I can just access. The thing that confused me, and I don't think was communicated very well, is what you actually do with these these power spots, because when they pop up, if you go to them, you can then like just scratch your screen and you'll start to gather Dynamax energy. But there's a timer on these power spots, but it was never explained what happens at the end of these timers. So I was expecting
some kind of raid.
The timer hits 0 and a Pokemon appears. But what happened was that they released the power spots and they released a little bit of research that allowed you to get a free Dynamax Wooloo, I think it was. But then the actual Dynamax raids, the battles, didn't start until today, so Tuesday. So a few days ago for those of you listening. So it was really confusing as to, okay, what do I do with this? And I saw that a few people were a little bit annoyed because the Dynamax energy that you can gather, you can have a maximum of 1,000 in your in your inventory at any one time. But the only way to spend that is to use it to power up Dynamax moves or to unlock extra Dynamax moves. So you can have basically an attack, a shield, or a heal. They're the 3 Dynamax moves. Every Dynamax Pokemon gets the attack as standard, and the other 2 you have to unlock with Dynamax Energy and candies. So some of the issues I saw online was people going, well, I can't collect any more Dynamax Energy because I've maxed out my storage, but I can't use the Dynamax Energy to unlock or level up these moves because it requires the Wooloo candies, and I don't have enough Wooloo candies, which means that I can't progress some of the research. I think that the implementation of this was, in some aspects, poorly done. I know why they did it. It was a case of, okay, we want to give people the opportunity to explore the power spots, get the free Wooloo, catch Wooloo to power it up, to do some of the research so that when the Dynamax raids drop on Tuesday, you've already got a powerful Pokemon that can deal with them. Now, at the moment, the 5 Pokemon available are Charmander, Bulbasaur, Squirtle, Wooloo, and Squirtle. They're all, low-level battles, dead easy to solo, like really easy to solo. Today, I have done, I think, 5, maybe 6. Really easy, quite fun. Managed to do a couple with my daughter as well. Looks quite interesting. I can already see that this is going to be a major time sink later on when they turn around and go, oh, you want that Eternatus? It's got to be done in one of these raids. It has to be local with a maximum of 4 players, and you need 4 players in order to beat this, this boss. It's a really interesting concept. I think that the rollout could have been handled a little bit better. I'm interested to see where it can go, but I'm already worried about how this is going to get monetized.
Interesting. I Pokemon Go, I have no response to any of this, really. Yeah. It does seem weird to me that they'd go, here's a bunch of resources for something you can't do yet.
Yeah, it was really weird. The fact that you can't delete some of this, I half expected it to be a case of, and they haven't rolled this out yet, and they might do later on, it is, you've got your item storage, you've got your Pokemon storage, whether or not they roll out some kind of Dynamax Energy storage, so these max particles, so that it isn't a maximum of 1,000, you can increase it, because at the moment, not only do you need these max particles to boost your Pokemon's attacks or Dynamax options or unlock them, you also need to pay them to enter the actual Dynamax raid. Now, it has been confirmed that if you lose that Dynamax raid, you get those max particles back. So you don't actually lose anything. All you've lost is your time, and then obviously revives and potions to heal up your Pokemon. But these are tier 1, level 1, or 1-star raids at the moment. Makes you wonder what it's going to be like when they do roll out the stronger ones, that you are likely going to need more people, and you're going to need 1,000 particles to do it.
I was going to say, so you get them back if you lose. If you win, do you gain max particles?
Nope.
It's not part of your prize.
It's not part of your prize. So what you have to do then is go around other power dens and basically it's basically the equivalent of spinning a disc, except you just scan the screen to get some of those max particles. You can get them by walking 2 kilometers as well. You earn, I think, 300, but it's capped at 800 per day. So I can already see how this could be monetized later on in terms of, it's an Eternatus day, which you can only do at power spots, and you need to basically gather a team of 4 because it costs 1,000 to enter. Now, and this is me speculating at this point, it costs 1,000 to enter. Oh, you want to do 4 or 5 in a day? Well, you're going to have to spend a little bit of cash to get some more max particles, which you can already buy max particles in the store. And the other thing as well is that when you beat a Dynamax Pokemon, you get your rewards, and then you can spend coins to basically boost the rewards. Some of those rewards are useless. Like, it'll be a case of, you beat it, you got 10 Premier Balls. But if you boost it, you can get an extra 10 Premier Balls. Oh, you got some candies? Well, you can pay 100 coins, or it's 200 coins, I think, and you can get, extra candies. So I can already see how this is going to be monetized for the players that go, I want the best Pokemon in the game, and I'm going to have to spend coins, which, yes, you can earn, free.
We've expressed before how slow coin farming is.
Exactly. Or you can spend the money to kind of speed up that process. Your money, do whatever you want. I'm interested to see where this goes, as it gets rolled out properly over the next few months to the next year when they start to bring out the stronger Pokemon. I must admit, I already do have a few concerns about, as with not just Pokemon Go, but other mobile games, of the heavy monetization that I expect to see in this, which is a shame. But what I've enjoyed it so far. I'm still enjoying Pokemon Go, so I'm interested to see where it goes.
Before we move on to the next subject, really quickly. Talking about mobile games, I haven't downloaded it yet, but I have seen the new trailer for the upcoming Masters EX expansion. Have you seen this?
I have not. No.
It's doing a Legends Arceus expansion, and it's got. Is it Serena? Not Serena. Wrong one. Sabrina. No, not her either.
No.
Cynthia. There you go.
Yes.
It's got Cynthia, Lance, and not Watson. Who's Wallace? No. The other Wallace, not Wallace.
Wally.
No. Steven Stone. There you go.
Steven Stone. Okay. So it's got some of the champions in. We got there.
And they're all like, they've got this big Arceus plate on their back and shining light, and they're all kitted out in white, and Volo is there for some reason doing something mischievous in the background.
Naughty Volo,
and of course, all of these champions have their ace Pokemon mega evolved, and it's just like, I don't know what's happening, but I think it looks cool. I think it was a very good bit of advertisement, and definitely made me think about getting Masters EX.
Have you played that before?
I played it for a little bit when it first came out because I really liked the lore that they were doing with it. I really liked, they were like, look, none of this is canon. This is not what the characters from the game are saying. But if the characters in the game were in this situation, this is what they would say.
Yeah.
I like that a lot.
I remember there was there were certain stories that you can just skip over. It's very much one of those games where the story is there just to service the kind of monetization, the battling, and needing to build up your sync pairs. There was one story that really...
I didn't really enjoy the actual battle mechanics. Did nothing for me.
I did up until a point. Then it got really boring, and then when you hit the end game content, it gets interesting again, because then you really do have to spec out your team. And I got to the point where basically I had Pokemon Masters before it became Masters EX, and the grind in that game killed it for me. And then I eventually came back to it when it was Masters EX, had to start from scratch. I can't remember if it's because basically when it became Masters EX, they just started again, or whether or not I lost my profile. I can't remember. I just remember having to start again. And I went hard on it when I restarted it, to the point where I was able to get enough gems or whatever they are to get red and Charizard, blue and Blastoise, and green and Venusaur. And at that point in the game, Charizard was the most OP Pokemon. It soloed most things. So it got to the point where it became really easy, and then the end game content made it really difficult, which I really enjoyed. But anyway, the point I was getting on with that is that, it's not canon. However, I think it is presented in such a way that if you want to have elements of that story as your head canon, it doesn't harm anything. And there was one story where it followed Ethan and Silver. Silver is Giovanni, and it follows them tracking down a shiny Ho-Oh, and eventually the shiny Ho-Oh chooses Silver as its trainer because of the development he goes through during the end and post game of Gold and Silver. And then there's even a part where Silver's like, I'm not worthy of this, and Ethan's like, well, that's exactly why it's chosen you, because like you realize your limitations, you realize that you're not all knowing or all powerful, like you are human like anyone else, and it realizes this. And it's just the story of like Ethan comes across dead, happy and chummy with Silver, like, oh, we're friends. And Silver's like, we're not friends.
We're not friends. I don't know what he's talking about, but we're not friends.
But over the course of the story, Silver gets worn down and then like they accept one another. And you know what? Not canon, but in my head, that's exactly what happens after Gold and Silver. And you can't tell me otherwise. There's
Why
some
not?
beautiful moments in it.
I think one of the best things I did see coming out of Masters EX was there's a scene where names are failing me today. Leader of the Galar region, Leon. Leon obviously shows up late to a meeting and then just wanders out of the ocean. And it's like, what happened? Is like, I don't know, I got lost. It's like, in the ocean!
Brilliant.
Okay! I enjoyed it a lot.
And like, just before we move on, like, it is one of the great things about Masters EX, actually, is the fact that, and it's something that I've wanted in the mainline Pokemon games for the longest time, of just not being afraid to reuse some of these characters, throw them in, and then just see what they're like with one another. And it's something that we don't get in the mainline games other than the odd cameo every now and again. So, you know what? If you haven't had a go of Masters EX and, you know, you're aware that is it a gacha game? Is that what the technical term? And it is one of those things of, you know, trying to get you to come back every day and spend your gems to a chance to unlock sync pairs. It's monetized, but like any of these games, you can play it completely free. But there are some great moments in the game that I think, you know, makes it stand above some of the other gacha or other Pokemon games that we've had over the last couple of years. Speaking of rivals, should we jump into the rival tier list?
Were we speaking of rivals?
Well, we kind of were talking about rivals.
Silver! Yeah, you mentioned Silver.
Yeah, I mentioned Silver. That works. So Conor will no doubt have done some magic on YouTube where, you know, floods a flash and all of a sudden you can see the tier list. If you're listening on the podcast, we'll do our best to kind of talk you through this of where we're ranking these rivals. So we've got S at the top. These are the best of the best rivals, all the way down to D tier, which are the rivals that we just do not really care about or could be improved.
Also, if you're sick of seeing tier lists on the channel, A, let us know in the comments. B, tell Game Freak to release some news.
So yeah, there's no news whatsoever, to the point where I think we previously mentioned, or do we just take a break? But the problem is we don't know, like a break hiatus, but we don't know how long that would be. Yeah. So you know what? If you've got a topic that you want us to discuss, let us know in the, you know, they'll be in the show notes down below, or leave a comment on YouTube. Like, it'll be any topic you want. We'll go away, we'll do some research, and we'll come together and, you know, we'll talk about it.
I mean, at least tangentially related to Pokemon. But
yes, please. Yeah, we don't want to go off on what's your favorite music and it becomes a music podcast. Anyway.
Well, no, let's just discuss the political climate of the Unova region.
Oh, that'd be interesting, wouldn't it? That'd be really interesting. Right, let's start with the rivals. Now, I know that I can see the list in a really weird order on yours, which I know you haven't done.
Alphabetical order.
Yeah. Should we do it in generation order?
Of course.
Yeah, okay. Oh, Connor's actually going to rearrange these now. He's going for it.
Oh, yeah, he started it, and now he's trying to test
now he's regretting it. So, yeah, and amazing there. Okay, and so we've got blue, silver.
No, nope. Barry, get around the other way.
Barry's after Wally. Okay, what's her name again?
Who? Bianca,
that's it. Bianca. Hold on,
I'm going to tell you ahead of time.
Needs to be in there somewhere. Cherry needs to be in there.
I'm trying to find him. There he is. I found him.
There you go. This is great for the audio listeners.
And then Gen 6.
Do some housekeeping. Gen 6.
Oh, no, Gen 5. Yeah. Gen 5. No, Gen 6.
You've done Gen 5. 6. Yeah, you're into Gen 6, which is all the traveling companions, isn't it?
Oh, okay. God, yeah, these losers. Forget about them.
Wow, okay, so we know where they're going in this tier list.
You knew where they were going in this tier list anyway.
They almost feel like they need to be grouped together. At least 3 of them do, I think. Okay, Gladion, so yeah, Gen 7, Gladion and How, yeah.
And then Trace.
Trace. Then we're into Hop,
Fade,
Fade, Marnie.
These two
Gosh, you got a
together. I forgot.
Oh, yeah, we forgot N. N needs thrown up there in. Yeah.
There you
okay,
go. They
right.
are now in order. Are you happy? I apologize to our audio listeners. There wasn't much I could do about that, other than maybe cut it out. But we spoke all the way through it, so we're not going to now because there's no convenient place to cut.
No, there's not. Right, let's start with Blue, the OG rival, the one that I think most people hold to a really high standard, or at least the bar that they set for rivals. And I have heard a lot of comments over my years saying, "Oh, I wish more rivals were like Blue," but I actually think that would make the whole rival situation worse. I like the fact that Blue kind of is on his own in terms of his attitude, the way he presents himself, the way he acts. I think it works really well in the first game as well, in terms of someone who, despite the fact that you beat him at every turn, every time you face him, he's always stronger and he's always getting stronger. And the fact that his goal is to do exactly what your goal is. He's like just the perfect first rival that you could have. If you had him later on in the generations, I don't think it'd work as well.
Yeah. See, I think your first rival really dictated how people thought they had to play the game, because your rival was out to beat all the gyms and become champion. They were going to catch all the Pokemon, beat all the gyms, become champion. And you were like, oh, okay, I guess that's what I'm supposed to do. As the games progressed, we started seeing more rivals, and we started seeing them do different things. They weren't necessarily on the same path as you. They were doing other things within this world, and kind of introduced you to the fact that battling isn't all there is. There's more to this world than that, which I think is at least worthwhile to a certain point. We'll come on to it. Gen 6, looking at you. But if we don't put Blue in S tier, we get shot, right? That's how this works.
Oh yeah, agreed. Yeah, if we don't put it in S tier, like, I think we lose all our listeners in within 24, 48 hours maybe. And you know what? I don't even think Blue is in S tier for a nostalgic point of view, because I'm going to go quite hard on Trace when he eventually pops up, and he's in Generation 1, and I really love Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, but like, Trace is lower down. Blue just stands out as a fantastic, not even a fantastic rival, just a character in the Pokemon universe, and it's a real shame that we don't get more of him.
Well, we've had him more than any other rival, I want to say, because he shows up again in Gold and Silver, and he shows up again in Sun and Moon, and I believe he's also in the Black and White World Tournament.
And he's in Let's Go as well.
And he's in Let's Go, where he's not even your rival, he's just another character within it. So he's shown up a lot over the series, and over the series you keep seeing this kind of development of him. He stops being such a hardhead and takes on a little bit of Red's chilled personality, accepts he's not the best, but still strives to be better than he is, which is a beautiful message. And, it reminds me of those old shonen rivals, your Vegetas who, okay, I accept I am not ever going to be as good as you. That doesn't mean I can't keep pushing myself. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Absolutely beautiful.
Fantastic. Silver. Okay.
Someone who luckily didn't have to wait for a follow-up game to get more, to get the rest of his story. So, for instance, Blue, you had to wait until Gold and Silver to find out that actually, no, Blue had retired from Champion. He took over the gym and went forward with his own way of life. Whereas Silver, you see him in the post-game of Gold and Silver. And I love the in-world storytelling of he's got no friends. He doesn't understand what friendship is to Pokemon because he's got all these Pokemon that would evolve through friendship or would evolve through trading, and they just can't evolve. Because he needs to learn the lesson of, hey, maybe being nice is a good thing once in a while. And he learns that story through the end. I think you find him in a cave in Kanto, and you fight him once more, and all of his Pokemon have evolved, and it's like, right, you learnt your lesson. Beautiful. That being said, we did get a follow-up to his story in Heart Gold Soul Silver, where we had the Celebi event, which took us back in time. We found out that, yes, Giovanni is indeed his father, and you throw him off a waterfall at the end of it, so Silver grows up an orphan.
Oh, is he does, right? Okay. Is this one of those weird Pokemon time travel events?
So, yeah, Celebi takes you back in time, and you go to a cave where Giovanni is hiding, because obviously Giovanni's in hiding after the events of Red and Blue. You speak to him and he talks. I'm pretty sure he talks about it. No, you see Silver running after his dad, calling him weak and why he would abandon people. And then Silver leaves. And then you talk to Giovanni and Giovanni's like, nah, I don't want anything to do with this anymore. I'm out. And then he walks outside and then all you hear is a splash sound. And you walk out and there's a waterfall right there. And it's like, what are we implying here? What is this?
The more I hear about Celebi, the more I think it just lives for chaos.
Oh, absolutely.
Honestly, he's not like some other like legendary mythical Pokemon where it's like a deity of pure goodness or anything. I honestly think Celebi's just out there for the lols. I'm just going to cause chaos. I'm going to enjoy it.
Well, the thing is, I think Celebi represents the chaos of time loops, if you think about it that way. So I've looked into this myself because, of course, I'm a nutter. And the time travel within the Pokemon world is really weird. Pokemon like Dialga and Arceus can rewrite the past. So they can send our main characters back into the past. And then whatever they do there actually affects the future. And when they return to the future, things have changed. Whereas Celebi creates time loops where, yes, you go back to the past, but you only do the things that you already did when you were in the past because you've already done this before.
Yeah.
So that's what makes Celebi so distinctly different from the other ones. None of this has anything to do with Silver other than the fact that Celebi made Silver's dad jump off a waterfall.
As you do.
Not quite. Yeah.
But Silver, like, just to kind of reiterate some of the points you made about, there's so much of Silver's story that, and I really enjoy this actually, where it's not completely spelt out to you. You get little hints, like you mentioned about his Pokemon don't evolve, because why would they evolve? Like, he's got the Golbat, it needs its high friendship in order to evolve. The Gengar, well, he needs to be able to trade it, and he's got no friends. And it's absolutely fantastic that, you know, some of that storytelling is just kind of layered there. And as you get older and you suddenly start to look at this character a lot more, you realize actually he isn't just angry emo boy. He's actually like quite layered, and there's a reason behind like the way he approaches things, which, you know, at first glance, I remember playing this as a kid just thinking, oh, he's just another Blue. But as I've gotten older, I appreciate him a lot more. He's as great as Blue. He's definitely in the S tier, but he isn't just a carbon copy. It is something completely original and unique. And you know, you know, my headcanon with Silver is that after Gold and Silver, he does go on to just become a better person as a result of, you know, the experience that he goes through with your character. And you know what? Like, I would happily see Silver come back in another game. He's a fantastic individual. I would love to see where his story goes after it. And, you know, for that reason, for me, he's got to be an S tier.
Do you know what? Crazy thought. I would actually have liked to seen, you know, the Rainbow Rocket incident. I would have enjoyed it if you got all the way to the end and instead of Giovanni, it was Silver.
Oh, that would have been
because
something
it's the
else.
Alternate timeline where actually Silver took over Team Rocket instead of trying to take them down for being frauds.
Oh, that would have been nice, wouldn't it?
It'd have been different. I think it would have been very interesting.
Definitely,
but anyway,
would have been anyway.
Brendan.
So Brendan and May, are we grouping these two together because they are carbon copies, right? It's just a gender difference based on whether or not you know, are you a boy or are you a girl? So we can throw these together. Now, like we said previously, these, you know, every rival is different. They don't just, Game Freak, to their credit, don't just take what they've done previously and copy it. And one of the things you mentioned earlier on is the fact that as the games progress, what these rivals are after changes. And for Brendan and May, it's not about becoming the champion. It's not about becoming the very best. It is just about helping their dad with their research, right?
Yeah, they're research assistants.
Yeah. And that's reflected in the battles that you have with them. Because they aren't
three of them.
Well, yeah, well, this is exactly it. Like the second battle, you can actually skip in Ruby and Sapphire. You can just flat out, they come up to you, hey, they want a battle. You can literally just walk past them and walk away from them. You can skip that battle. I'm pretty sure, actually, that the last battle, you can skip in Ruby and Sapphire when they're outside the Lily Cove department store. You can just flat out just not trigger that battle.
Oh, okay.
These are just rivals that I don't even want to call them rivals, to be quite honest with you. It's
now,
like
people will be screaming that, well, you can skip your second battle with Blue.
You can. However, Blue is a trainer that so many of those battles are mandatory. Like the vast majority of them are mandatory. Especially when he's climax champion. Of the story. Exactly. It's the climax of the story. Whereas with Brendan and May, like skipping the battles doesn't feel like you're almost cheating yourself out of content, mainly because it feels like, well, why would you battle them? Because that's not what they're doing. They're there to research. And it's a shame that we didn't get to see more of that during the game, of actually, maybe Game Freak should have done something different with them, when instead of it being a battle of sorts, maybe it's a case of you bump into them and it's, oh, let's compare Pokedexes. Oh, you're doing better than me? Well, here's an item. Oh, you're not doing better than me? Well, sorry, let's have a fight. Or something else like that. I wish Game Freak would have gone a little bit farther and done something a little bit different, because, the whole rival aspect, unfortunately, is a little bit lackluster. But I will admit, they're not rivals as such, so I can forgive it.
Okay, I would happily say they're not rivals, so it's fine. Unfortunately, Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire tried to expand on them a little bit. Very little bit. And after the credits roll, you have to fight these guys.
You do, yes. I forgot
and
about that.
Is the easiest fight in the world. It's right after you've beaten the Elite Four. It's right after you've beaten the champion. You watch through all the credits, and are you allowed to turn off? No. You got to sit through this one really pathetic fight that you just are going to sweep through them because it's not hard. And I think that actually brings them down a tier for me, because that leaves such a bad taste in my mouth, especially when I've Nuzlocke that game.
Oh yeah,
and you blitz through it, and you're like, yes, I'm done. Oh, there's one more thing. Does this count? It doesn't matter if this counts. I just have to keep pressing A again over and over until I can say this counts. Yeah, they don't show up enough throughout the game. I do like that they offer something different, that they are research assistants. It's odd that they're the ones that take the... That being said, there are some hard fights with them. There can be some hard fights with them. The one outside of Watson's town, when you go over the bridges over the water.
Oh, yes. And it's mainly because at that point in the game, I think that's the first time that you've actually had to battle someone that has a balanced team of, a fire, a grass, and a water type, whereas typically, most battles you will run through because you've already got that diverse team. So I think that's why that one is seen as a bit of a step up at that point. But it's kind of one of those curves where you suddenly have that plateau, and then for the rest of the game, they just completely trail off, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Which is a real shame. But if we had to rank these two...
I would stick them in B, but not knowing if that's nostalgia speaking.
See, I was going to say very low A, but that is definitely nostalgia speaking. I think B... I think they do enough to throw them in B. I feel like there is work to be done to push them into A or even S. But obviously, they had the shot with Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire and actually made it worse, like you said. Unfortunately, I think B is fine. They are that borderline average rival, so to speak.
Yeah. They got a really nice scene where you just watch the beauty fly as you come into town. in Omega Ruby.
Oh yeah,
and Alpha
that's
Sapphire.
gorgeous. That's actually gorgeous. Yes. And I think, you know what? I think Game Freak made the right choice with the rivals in Gen 3 because they couldn't just repeat Gen 1 and Gen 2. They had to go, well, let's do something a bit more mellow. And I'm glad that they did. And you know what? That's, that whole mellow attitude is kind of reflected in Wally as well. Because Wally is a strange rival for this list and not one that I considered when we started this. Because he is a rival, but you only fight him once. No, twice.
You
sorry.
fight him twice, but once isn't really fair.
Well, his one Ralts versus your entire team. There's probably 6 Pokemon by this point. I want to get him up just to confirm. Is this going to get him up? Okay, of course, because
you do see him one more time. I think you see him either. Yeah, you see him outside of. No, because you meet his uncle, don't you?
Yeah.
Because you meet him outside the gym, outside Watson's gym, and then you have it might be his parents or his uncle are up in not Flannery's town, but the one left of it.
I think that's where he's originally from because of he moves away because of the suit. Because of his
allergies.
Yeah.
The weeb, little nerd. It's cool. It's a story about. It's basically the time you get to be the professor in the story. You get to help somebody go out, catch their very first Pokemon, show them what it means to be a Pokemon trainer by giving them a battle.
Yeah.
And then sending them on their way and seeing them right at the end and being like, oh, I see you got real strong. Not strong enough, though.
Yeah. It's...
You're more Wally's rival than he is yours.
Yeah, this is the Hop thing as well. And I'm sure we'll say the same thing about Hop, where he's not your rival. And you know what? Wally's a strange one, because I must admit, I remember when I started replaying Pokemon when I got into my 20s, and I was watching somebody, they mentioned, you do know you only fight Wally like one major time. And I was like, what? No, you don't. And my nostalgia had me thinking that he was the out-and-out rival that you fought several times in that game. You don't. But I must admit, though, that I do have that memory of me playing Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire when I hadn't touched Ruby and Sapphire in I don't know how long, getting to the end of Victory Road, and you hit that flower area, and then suddenly going, oh, Wally's here. I forgot that you actually fight Wally, and just that battle, he has a Mega Gallade, I think, as well, off the top of my head, and just that epic moment where actually they took him and went, okay, let's keep to the core of what he was like in in Ruby and Sapphire, but then elevate it slightly, which is fantastic. I think, like Brendan, like May, there's a lot to love there. Again, I'm glad that they didn't go, the same as they did with Silver and Blue in terms of, repeating some of those elements that they had. But the more I think about this, the more I think, oh, okay, that's why Brendan and May don't have it all, and that's why Wally doesn't have it all, because actually you've got these technically two rivals in different ways. And if you suddenly had both of them constantly battling you, you'd probably have what I think some people complain about with Gen 6 in terms of it seems like every route, one of your rivals, one of your traveling companions, wants to battle you. So actually, maybe the fact that Wally doesn't constantly battle you is a point in his favor.
It wouldn't make a lot of sense for his story either. Wally, if you kept battling him, I think would give up.
I agree. Yeah, that's a good point, actually.
You battle Wally once, and then he goes away, and he's like, I will come back when I'm ready. Yeah. And to be fair to him, he comes back when he's ready.
He comes back hard. He's got a good team.
It's a good fight, and I really, really, where I think Brendan and May got lit down by Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire by that final battle, I think Wally gets highly lifted by that final battle because it's so gorgeous. It's just really different. The fact he got his Mega was great to see. I honestly think that pushes Wally into A simply because we don't see him so often. And you have this whole inferred story of what's going on in the background to make him that much stronger and that much more capable. And you know that the only thing you really did was set him on his journey. And that's a really nice feeling. I don't know how to explain that. We very rarely get to see the ripples of our actions. Whereas Wally gets to come back and be like, I'm gonna ripple all up in your face. Yeah. The metaphor broke down a little bit, but
I think it works. Right. I'm happy to throw Wally in A tier because of all the reasons you just mentioned. And the fact that, like, you know, some of his character is backed up by the conversations you have with his family throughout the game, and they worry about him. And just to see that, you know, he is a diddy little weakling, but it's the fact that despite that, he is able to go on a journey, which probably surprises himself as well. And I think there's a lot of character in Wally, despite the fact that you don't see him that often. So yeah, happy to throw him in A tier.
We start getting into all the ones I actually have a lot to say about. I think I have really strong feelings about Gen 4, 5, and 6 rivals.
Okay, that's good. That's good, because Gen 5 is probably my weakest in terms of the rivals, so I'm glad that you can pick up the slack there. Barry, let's start with Barry. Now, Barry's a strange one for me because Gen 4, I think the same for you, and I've mentioned this before. Gen 4 is when I stopped. Yeah, made us drop. And it wasn't to do anything to do with Barry. It wasn't to do with Barry.
It was a little bit to do with Barry.
Was it?
It was a little bit to do with Barry. Sick to death of Barry.
Good old Barry. So the first real exposure I had to Barry was playing the remakes. And there's something about him, I don't know if it's the chibi sprite or something, but there's something I find quite, endearing about Barry.
Oh, I just want to put him in a bin. I just want to pick him up and put him head first in a bin.
I think, and the reason why is because, like, I think that a lot of people, when they play Pokemon, they see themselves as, I see myself as red. I see myself as blue. I see myself as Barry. If I was a trainer in Pokemon, I think I would be Barry. Just as, like, go, gotta go. Where's Barry gone? Barry's gone. Oh, Barry's up the mountain now. That's it. Like,
and we call that a diagnosis of ADHD, my friend.
Yes, honestly. Like, there are times with my family where they go, Have you got something? I don't know. I've never been diagnosed. I don't know. But the fact that when I was playing through BDSP, and I remember I was doing the series of British Eagle at the time, and we were just talking about Barry, and we were having a lot of a laugh and a joke at Barry. But I don't think he's as annoying as a lot of people say he is. But maybe that's just me enjoying him.
I will tell you where some of that comes from. It comes from the series where his catchphrase was, I'm gonna fine you $1 million. Does
he say it all the time?
Everything, every little thing. It was like, if you're late, I'll fine you $1 million. If you're this, I'll fine you $1 million. I'll fine you $1 million. Oh, if you bump into me, I'll fine you $1 million. Shut up! Strangle him. Not that we support violence on this channel, but Barry, shut up!
Shut up, Barry. So, hold on. So that's a good point. This is just the games, right? We're separating the anime
absolutely.
Artists. Okay, fantastic. So, I mean, what are your feelings towards
He keeps running into me. He keeps running into me, and he doesn't learn his lesson. And
he barges in and
probably
out of
one
rooms.
of the harder fights right before the Elite Four. That's one
I always remember his Staraptor close combat. Just being like, wait, what? It's got close combat? I must admit, like, he probably is one of the stronger rivals on this list, I think.
I think so.
And the fact that, you know, the challenges that you have from him throughout the game feel very balanced compared to a lot of the other ones. I vaguely remember he's the one that I had the most trouble with, I think. Out of all the rivals on this list, I think he is the one that I struggled with the most. Which for me, who does enjoy Pokemon battles, giving me, you know, some degree of challenge is a point in his favor.
Yeah. And as much as, like, I've made out that I really dislike Barry, and don't get me wrong, I do. care more about a rival that makes me feel something. That's what puts them higher in my books. If I hate them, that's not necessarily a bad thing, because it then just makes my story of beating them all the better. Right? Barry, to me, every time I play through that game, is my neighbor who my mum makes me play with.
Okay, I can see that, yes.
It's like, no, you have to invite him to your birthday party. You have to.
Yeah.
It's like, I really don't want to. No, you have to. Fine. That's who Barry is in my playthroughs, and I enjoy destroying him every single time because of that. And he puts up a challenge, and I appreciate that much from Barry.
He does.
I will always take that over someone like Brennan or May, who is kind of a little bit bland.
Yeah, and thinking about Barry as well, all the other trainers feels like when you bump into them, it is very deliberate. Never feels like that with Barry. Always feels like Barry's just in the right place at the right time, or you're in the wrong place at the wrong time, and he just like pops up. And he's not there to see you. He's not there to spend time with you. He's there because he's just passing through and just so happens to see you, and he's that annoying person who comes running up to you. And because it's the Pokemon universe, he wants to battle you. And then no sooner than you battled, he's sodded off again. I think there's a lot to love about Barry. But is he a rival?
Yeah.
Based on, but well, I'm just talking about like all the rivals' stories feel like they're very linked with yours in some way. Barry's the one that feels the least linked because he is just like he just seems to appear. I guess is the point I'm making. Is going off.
He's on the exact same journey as you are. He's doing the gyms. He's taking on the Elite Four, or he's trying to. You stop him. You start your journey together by going to explore the lakes. He gets roped when Team Galactic are doing their like bomb threat and things.
Oh yes,
he does come to Canalave Library with you.
Yeah,
he's very involved in the story.
Yeah, he's more involved than I remember. Yeah,
he's very involved. He's just elsewhere.
Yeah,
he's just off.
I'm just remembering all the annoying parts, I think. So yeah, no, you're absolutely right. He is that, and I'm just looking at his sprite from Platinum where he dances around like he's on something. Yeah, that's exactly the one. That's exactly the one. You know what? Yeah, the more I'm looking at Barry, the more I am. Yeah. Oh god, he looks annoying in the anime, I must admit. Okay, where are we throwing him then?
I think because of how present he is, and actually we've kind of agreed he's one of the harder rivals, I think he probably does belong in A. As I said, I would rather feel something than nothing.
Yeah,
even if that something is negative.
Yeah, he's definitely an A. But despite all the positives and everything there is to like about him, I just feel like he's missing something that would push him into ST, but I don't know if the detractor from that is his personality, his attitude. I don't know if that's what stops him.
I don't know.
Right, so Gen 5 now. Bianca, Cherin, Yeah?
Yeah.
Cherin? And now, unlike Brendan and May and the traveling companions later on, these three are very distinct. Very different journeys. Very different attitudes to life and their progression, but all rivals in various ways. So let's take them one at a time. Let's start with Bianca. Now, you have to remind me on a little bit about this. Is she the one that eventually decides to become a professor?
She's the one who becomes a research assistant for Professor Juniper by Black and White 2. So 2 years on, I think it is, after her story, after your initial story in Black and White, she's a research assistant. Now, what I love about Bianca is so much of her initial story is figuring that out, is working out like, no, I'm in the Pokemon world, I'm a Pokemon rival, I'm one of a group of kids heading out into the Pokemon world altogether, so therefore I must be in it for catching Pokemon and battling Pokemon, and that's what I need to find, right? It's my strength. That's what this is all about for me. And I mean, anybody who's ever watched any of my stuff knows I'm completely biased on this because Bianca made me cry the first time I played through this game, because she has this big blowout with her dad right before leaving town, because he's like, "You're too weak. You're a young little woman. You're not going to handle it out there. You're kind of useless." And then she meets a bunch of, well, she gets her, the real world isn't kind to Bianca. Like, she gets her Pokemon stolen, and she keeps losing to you. And unlike Sharon, who beats you and moves forward, Bianca loses, Sharon, if you beat him, he's like, okay, I'm moving forward. Bianca, you beat her and she drops back.
Mm.
She's never confident enough to go forward, and life keeps kicking her in the teeth. And she meets really, really strong women. She meets Professor Juniper. She meets
the gym leader, isn't he? The electric gym leader.
The electric gym leader, yes. But before that, she meets Iris. Iris helps her get her Pokemon back. And yeah, she meets the electric gym leader, whose name I have forgotten, and it is Elisa, or yeah,
Elisa. Yeah. Okay,
meets her, and she breaks down. And it's like, no. I'm like a model and a gym leader, and you don't get to tell me what I get to be. I can be beautiful. I can be powerful. I can be none of the above. Who are you to tell me what I can and can't be because I'm a woman? Stick it. And like, Bianca has this whole moment where she's in the middle of town. Her dad shows up, starts having a go at her, telling her to come home. She gets backup from a couple of people, and she stands up to her dad and is like, no, I know you're just out here to protect me. I know all you want is good things, but you need to let me make mistakes. You need to let me find out who I am so that I can, maybe this isn't where I'm meant to be, but I won't know until I try it. And I'm getting a little bit choked up saying it because it's such a beautifully told story. And she is such a minor character. Now, I'm really glad we're not doing the anime because they did her they did her dirty in the anime. Did not do her well in the anime.
Really?
She comes off annoying again. She's just ditzy and a klutz and gets in the way and causes trouble. And it's like, yeah, she was a bit of a ditz, but it was never. I don't think
never
it
a
ever
defining like.
It only ever hurt her.
Yeah,
you know, and she worked on it and overcame it by the end. And as we say in Black and White 2, she becomes a research assistant, and I love that. I will always put Bianca in S tier. As I said, I am biased. That scene broke me when I read it the first time.
Well, I don't really have much else to. I don't have anything else to add, to be quite honest with you. I have played through Black and White, but they are the out of all these games, they're the ones that I've played through the least, to the point where recently I've really been thinking I need to go back and play Black and White and Black and White 2. So I'll just like, whatever you say here, you want to throw an S tier, I'm more than happy to. I know the scene that you're referring to. Despite the fact that I don't remember a lot about Black and White, I remember that scene because it's a fantastic scene. The music is great. And just seeing her, develop at that point, that moment where she goes, oh, actually, you know what? So yeah, throw her an S tier. More happy to do that. She's got all the attributes that you need to be a fantastic rival.
Sharon.
So Sharon's the one that is the more traditional rival in terms of you have the same goal as him at the start, right?
Yeah. He is a capable trainer who wishes to go on to beat the Elite Four.
Okay. Get stall for me and talk about him while I just check his,
much in the same as Blue.
Page.
Didn't beat the Elite Four, went on to become a gym leader. Unlike Blue, did not become the last gym leader of the game, became the first gym leader of the game. Which is a little bit like, okay, but obviously still shows up in the World Tournament, still plays a very big role within the story. Still, I think he still fights Team Plasma alongside you a couple of times.
I think he does, yeah, in Black and White.
Yeah, so Sharon is very, very capable. That's kind of the most I could say about him, though. He does overthink things a lot. He is a little bit single-minded in his approach of strength. Strength will out.
Right.
Or I have the will to succeed, therefore I will succeed. And it's like, nah, that's not quite how that works. I don't know. I just never felt there was as much of a resolution to his story.
Kind of peters off a little bit from what I remember in terms of you beat him, has a bit of dialogue, and then you don't see him until post game again. From what I remember.
Yeah, because that's kind of. I think the problem Sharon has is that N exists.
Do you think it would have been better those two were like combined into one character?
Sharon and N?
Yeah.
No, N needed to be his own character. And we'll come on to why in a minute. But N needed to be his own character. Another character that like had one scene that completely changed how I viewed this character in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
Sharon never had it. I think that's what I'm getting at. Out of a series of games that had so much heavy dialogue, so much dramatic storytelling amongst their characters, I don't really feel anything towards Sharon. He was a little bit vanilla in a game that stepped so far out of its comfort zone with its characters.
Yeah, it feels like Sharon, just to like elevate him, needed probably some of the scenes that Hop gets later on in the series in terms of those moments of self-doubt, moments of challenging himself, moments of realization. Doesn't feel like Sharon really has them, and then all of a sudden he just pops back up in, in Black and White too. And I think he's probably done a little bit dirty that he's the first gym leader, because he probably deserves better than that. But I can kind of understand. Oh, he's quite new to this. He's quite young, and for people that are returning, it's that opportunity to kind of go, oh no, this is the same universe. You're going to see some of the same characters, and I can understand it from that perspective. I mean, based on everything that we've said, then are we thinking he goes into B tier?
I think B. Again, he's capable. He's an interesting character, but it's just not enough substance there for me.
Okay, fair enough. So, N, you mentioned this.
Unlike N.
Unlike N. So you mentioned a scene that completely just flipped your understanding. So what was that scene?
The scene when you find out that N's been groomed his entire life.
Yes, by Getsis. Yes, because I know what you mean, because when you first meet him, he comes across as mysterious and weird, and it does come across as very weird in terms of being able to like understand your Pokemon. And then as you progress throughout the story, you throughout the story, there was never a point where I thought like, okay, I'm in danger with this person. It always felt like this is just a really weird person. And like you say, when the story around, the bad guy team comes out and the whole Getsis angle, you suddenly, everything flips a little bit of, oh, no wonder N isn't normal, because the upbringing he's had, he was never going to turn out just like a typical functioning human, because like you say, Getsis has groomed him for this for greatness. Yeah. So of course he's going to turn out the way that he has.
So the story of N, for anybody who doesn't know for whatever reason, he was a young man who could talk to Pokemon, and Getsis saw this, noticed it, recognized its potential for power, and effectively kidnapped him, stuck him underground, told him he was their future king, and raised him under the ideology of, yes, you are the future king. You are to bring unity to the Pokemon world. Pokemon battles are evil. Everybody should get rid of their Pokemon except me. Ha 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 ha. But we must use Pokemon battles. We must use what they have done in order to beat them with it effectively. And N is such an interesting character because he goes with this. For me, it's when you go in and you see the three women who raised him, who were there all in like Grecian garb. They're all in togas and stuff like that. And it's like, okay. And you're all just here looking after a kidnapped kid, and some old dude in a robe is running. This is a cult. That's what this is. Yeah. You are like the three wives of a cult leader raising a stolen child. And then you walk into this playroom, and out of context, that's all it is. It's a playroom.
Yeah.
It's got blocks and it's got a little train that runs around.
Yeah.
But you walk in and it feels dirty.
Yeah.
It feels, Yeah, it is. You understand. It's like, oh no, that's where you were at. I've only met you as a 17, 18-year-old who has been indoctrinated into a life. No, you were a child. You were a toddler. You couldn't form words when this man took you and started filling your head with this nonsense in order to warp your brain into doing what he wants. Oh, sorry. Makes me really angry. And again, that's what I love in a rival. I need them to make me feel something.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that it's a strange place where that room happens, because if I remember correctly, it's during the Elite Four run, isn't it, where the castle crashes?
Yeah, when the castle crashes up.
And I think, like, if that had been, and I think that's what makes it stand out a lot more, because you suddenly realize, oh, this is Endgame. They're trying to lay on some of this story. It's the fact that you're exploring this castle, and it's like it's just a generic castle, and then, like, say, there's that one room that you go in, and you just go, oh, this isn't right. Something's real. And that's when I think, for me, because I played this when I was a lot older, suddenly I went from, oh, okay, ends this weird trainer with these ideals to, oh, he's actually the victim here.
Yeah.
And suddenly realizing, oh, okay, this is actually like probably the most layered rival that we've ever had, when you really look at their backstory and their history and how they turned out the way that they did. And it benefits him as a rival, which is fantastic.
Yeah, I think N is S tier. And I don't think many people would disagree with that.
No, and I think he's one of them where I think that, you know, like Blue, there's a huge community following for N.
Yeah.
And rightly so. Hugh. I don't know what to say about Hugh, to be quite honest with you. I have played through Black and White 2, not to completion. I don't really remember much about Hugh. He just...
You don't remember much about Hugh? There's only one thing to remember about Hugh. Where's Purloin? Where's my Purloin?
He chases down the Purloin, doesn't he? Because his sister's Purloin
That's his
gets kidnapped.
It was his grandfather's Purloin that was given to his sister and then kidnapped by Team Plasma, and then Neo Team Plasma eventually have it on their team.
Oh, do they? Oh, wow.
Okay. Yeah, it is. He's very one-dimensional. And I will admit, the first time I played through this game, I gave him a really annoying voice.
Okay. Is that impacting your decision?
It never read wrong, okay?
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, okay. I know what you mean.
So, yeah, he is just a little bit... That's all I think when I see him is, where's Purloin?
Is he our first C tier, then?
He might be, you know.
I don't know enough about him, but...
But the thing is, there you go. He suffers from the thing of he comes from such a heavy stacked game, two-part game, and he's kind of the weakest of the four.
It's the fact that I have played through Black and White too. Not, as I said, not to completion, but I don't remember anything about him other than, like you say, being outside one of the caves where he's chasing down Purloin, and then the very start of the game where he's on there and you go up the path and you slightly start. Other than those two moments, I remember nothing about this rival.
Yeah.
Absolutely nothing.
I mean, you fight with him on an airship, which is kind of cool, but...
Yeah.
Meh. C tier.
Meh.
Speaking of meh...
Okay, hold on. So there's something that we need to do here, because
no, there's not.
No, there is. So we've got the five rivals from Pokemon X and Y. Now I think
Callum and Serena are together.
Yes, agreed, because they are carbon copies of one another. But I think we address those two, and then the other three get lumped together because they are, for all intents and purposes, one person, because whenever you meet them, all three of them, 90%, 95% of the time in the game, those three trainers are together. They're annoying. Let's do those three first, because they're a lot easier to do, right? Should we do those three first? Yeah.
I don't know if I would rank all these together. I think Sean is slightly better than Tierno and Trevor.
I agree, but the fact that they associate with those two drags her down.
It does. Plus the fact that they try and have a forced romance with the player,
Which is weird. Yeah, a bit strange. I mean, so
it's fine. They're all D tier.
Okay, so this is why I've mentioned previously about do we consider them rivals? Because those three, I don't consider them rivals, and it was you a long time ago that told me, consider them as travel companions. And since then, I look a lot more favorably on them in terms of, okay, they aren't meant to be rivals. They are just on this amazing journey with me, and they're never going to challenge me. They're never going to compete with me, but that's okay because they that's not what they want. You've got one of them that loves dance, one of them that I can't remember what he loves, and the girl loves my play character apparently. So I'm hesitant to put them in D tier because I don't see them as rivals.
What do they make you feel?
Annoyance.
Annoyance? Okay, that's something.
I mean, the standout moment is obviously the bridge battle where you have to battle them one by one by one. But again, thinking about it, the vast majority of times I've done that, it's been in a randomized Nuzlocke. It hasn't been in the main game. Maybe they are D tier. I'm talking myself around to D tier now.
Are you ever happy to see them?
No, I'm not. It's always one of those annoying, here we go again. I'm on another route.
It's never a case of again. Like, here's this character, or you don't even get that little satisfaction of, I get to read a little bit of like cringy dialogue. It's just, here we go.
Yeah, no, you're
gonna
right.
Waste my time for a little bit.
Yeah, all three of them D tier. Let's do it. Okay.
Callum, Serena, first rivals with access to the gimmick of the generation.
Yes. And they now what are they trying to accomplish? Is it outright stated that
I do not know.
I don't think it's ever outright stated what they're, what they want to accomplish in life. It's definitely not the Elite Four, despite the fact that they follow you in terms of that story. They're there for a lot of the key beats. So, like, getting the mega ring bracelet, whatever it is. They're there for that. They're there when you are trying to shut down Team Flare on multiple occasions. They're there where you awaken Xerneas or Yveltal. They're there as you start to get to the end of the game along Victory Road. But despite all that, they never have their own agency. A lot of the other rivals have something about them where it's like, no, this is I'm there alongside you, but I'm there for my own personal reasons. This is my story. I don't get that with these two. It feels like they're just there because, Game Freak suddenly thought, we need a rival. Let's just have this person, and they kind of follow you along. But then there's no agency to them.
No, they are what I think is commonly referred to as milk toast.
What? I've never heard that before.
Milk toast. It basically means the blandest of the bland.
Yeah,
there's nothing going on there. And I think they suffer from the same thing as Brendan and May, where they are a sort of dual-gendered character. They can't ever be their own character to any real degree.
That's a good point.
Because they are two different characters playing the exact same role. And I think they suffer for it. Do I think they suffer more than Brendan and May?
Oh.
Now, this is what I'm saying was B tier 2, just nostalgia speaking for Brenda and May. Brendan, not Brenda.
Are they?
And we're not including the anime people. Stop telling me that Serena is your waifu and you love her dearly. We get it. She's fine. You want to say that she ran off with Ash in the end? You say that. Just stop commenting on my video, okay? It wasn't actually about Ash's daughter. Anyway.
Could you imagine? Oh, dear. What? Sorry, I'm on Serena's Bulbapedia article, and when I scroll down to Generation, where it tells you where this character appeared. Generation 6, 8, and 9? What? That doesn't feel right at
unless
all.
She shows up in the anime.
That'll be why. Okay. Oh, yeah, so it's the game, but there's a little bit about the anime. No, you're right. So in terms of these characters, I think I have to throw them in C tier, despite the fact that I do. But then I'm thinking, is the reason I'm putting them in C tier is because I do have a little bit of nostalgia for X and Y. I really do enjoy that game.
I don't think they're D tier.
No, I think there's enough to bring them out, but barely. They are barely. They are like just scrambling out of D tier. I think they're not strong C tier. Yeah, I think that. You know what? And this is the thing, actually, thinking about it. I think that the only reason they are in C tier is because they do appear at multiple key points in the story, like the big key points, which is why you actually remember them. I remember them being there. I don't remember their personalities.
Yeah, they didn't do anything.
No.
Like, they show up and they're like, oh, you going to go do a thing? Okay. So, all right, cheers. Thanks for being here.
Yeah. The more I think about it, actually, the more I think these two are actually really bland.
They are. That's
boring.
Probably the best way to describe them. They are the blandest of the bland. I don't think. Weirdly enough, I think the other three have more of a personality.
They do, and I can't believe
I know something about them.
Yeah, like when you think about them, like you remember aspects of them. You like Treno's dancing and whatnot. And the way that I always forget the Shauna, is it? Shauna. The way, like, I always remember her animations and her screaming and stuff, but the other two, I don't actually remember anything other than them just being. Have we got these groups the wrong way around? This is thinking about it.
I'm happy to put it that way if that's what you want.
Because, like, I know that you mentioned, like, what do those three make you feel? But at least they make me feel something.
Yeah, you said annoyed. I went, well, that's something. Whereas I don't feel anything when I see these two. I go, oh yeah, that's the one I didn't pick.
Yeah.
that's the character I didn't pick.
I think, yeah, they have to go into D tier, and I can't believe I'm saying that.
Sure. Go on, Trevor. You step into C tier. I can't remember. I think he wants to fill out the Pokédex or something.
I can't remember. Treno's the dancer. Trevor, what does Trevor want to do? Maybe it is to do with the Pokédex.
I think it's the Pokédex. I know, again, in the anime, he shows up and is actually quite a strong opponent for Ash, but we're not talking about the anime.
Okay.
Yeah, no, seriously. Okay. He's like really, really strong.
Okay. So, How? Again, one of those trainers that I don't know a lot about, to be quite honest with you. He was like, my understanding of him is very much the hop before hop was real.
So let me tell you a funny thing about How. How is the first person to ever get to compete in a Pokemon League without having to do all the prerequisites.
Oh, really?
How never beat his.
Oh, he does it. His granddad, is it?
I think it's his granddad. Yeah, he never beats him, or at least he never tells you he beats him. The last time you see him and speak about it, he hadn't beat Hala, and then it never gets brought up again. And then you fight him at the end. Now, of course, this is Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. Obviously, in Sun and Moon, I think you fight Kukui instead.
Yeah.
But yeah, how. I'm pretty sure never actually beats Hala and somehow is allowed to compete. Now, if that's not nepotism, I don't know what is.
That's definitely nepotism.
How was one I'd heard a lot of bad things about. How was one I went into this game expecting to dislike. But the first time I played through this, I played through it with Tommy Lou. And he voiced How. And he just voiced him as the most happy to be here kind of person.
Oh, yeah, I can see that.
And there's a scene that sticks out to me where you stop the Tauros from rampaging, and there's just Hal standing there, jumping up and down, flailing his arms about like, yo, Tauros, bro, you did it! You stopped Tauros, bro! It's like, and I love him, and that energy is just stuck with me, and I love how there's even parts when you're doing the Aether Foundation, because you go in with Lily and because you go in with Gladion, and they're both so serious because they've got like family ties to this, and their mum's gone mental and may have been a psychopath her entire life and is about to get eaten and joined up with an ultra beast and all sorts. And how it's just like, cool, things are happening. I'm just really happy to be here. This is fun. And like, Gladion just fires so many shots at him, really? And now just completely no sells it.
Oblivious.
Just like, yeah, cool, awesome. You're a bit full on, aren't you?
Oh, dear. Oh, I love that.
So
I love that.
I think How and Hop are two characters who get a lot of hate from the Pokemon franchise. We've had discussions before how we feel about Hop. Kind of the same way I feel about How. He's not an angry rival. He's not really that strong. But I enjoy seeing him because he's just somebody who enjoys life. And I think for an Alolan game, that's
he was the right
nice.
Yeah. Yes. Agreed.
For the vibe they were going with.
Okay. I don't really have a lot of memories from How and Sun and Moon. Again, one of those games I need to play through again. So I'm happy to like. Where do you think he goes? He feels like he's higher than C. He feels like he's at least B tier, right?
I mean, I would put him in A. I mean, considering Wally and Barry are an A, I think I would happily put How in A. Because again, he makes me feel something every time I see him.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Gladion.
Gladion. So
it's such a weird one. I never consider Gladion a rival because he's really not part of the story.
I mean, you battle him several times.
Do you?
Yeah, apparently 4 times.
See, I only ever remember meeting him in the Aether Foundation. No, sorry. You meet him because he's working with Team Skull initially.
He is, yes.
And then you meet him again in the Aether Foundation, and that's kind of as much as I ever remember from him.
Because, like, why would he... It doesn't feel like he's your rival because... I don't know how to explain this. Because he's on his... Okay, he's on his own journey. He is on his own journey, and regardless of your character, if your character suddenly, didn't move to Alola, Gladion will still go on his own journey. He's got his own agency. He doesn't... And I think that's why he doesn't feel like a rival, despite the fact that he has some of the rival beats in terms of, integrated in your story and those battles that whenever you meet him. But again, he doesn't feel like a rival, but he's on this list, so we have to like rank him. So let's talk about, I guess, his story, I guess, because him and Lily could have been merged into one character, and I'm glad they didn't because
no, I don't think they could have.
No, sorry, I don't mean could have been as in it wouldn't make a difference. I mean from a development point of view, when they were starting the story, they could have just gone, let's just merge them into one. I'm glad they didn't though, because they approach that story in very different ways, and they are very different characters. And it's one of the things I do appreciate. And I do like the fact that Gladion feels like he's cut from the same cloth as Blue and Silver, which we hadn't had for a very long time. So I'm glad that they went with, okay, what can we do about this kid? And we can make him quite edgy, and his design, the Pokemon he uses, his attitude and everything else like that, which I really do like as well. That's about all I've got from it. It's all I remember. I don't remember a lot, other than I think he's quite heavily in the game, right?
So, again, a big part of his story revolves around the Aether Foundation, because you first meet him when he's working with Team Skull, and you find out that he's basically rebelling. He's a hand for hire, he's a sword for hire, effectively, for Team Skull. He's not actually part of them, but he will fight on their behalf because they've hired him to, which, okay, that's interesting, that's different. And then we find out that he's Lily's brother. And then we find out that obviously their mum is crazy and effectively tortured them as kids. And we also find out that he stole Silvally, which is such a huge part of his story. This thing that, like, oh, you've created this beast within the Aether Foundation to fight these Ultra Beasts and things. You were playing God, and you're not treating it like an actual Pokemon. I'm gonna free it. And it's interesting that you say he's like Silver, because, you know, somebody with ties to the evil team, somebody whose parent runs the evil team, who steals a Pokemon, but has much better reasoning for it, I think, and much more fleshed out, understandable motives for it this time round. And there is obviously that moment where his Silvally evolves into... he stole a type null, it evolves into Silvally when he, like, shows it enough friendship and enough love for it to evolve. Very, very cool. I just don't remember that happening in the story. I know that is the story. I just don't remember where that happened. And that might be my fault. I've only played Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon once. So a lot of this will be on me.
Where do you think we're putting him then? I think a bit like how I think he's actually A tier. I think there's enough there in terms of character, the development he goes through, the battles throughout the story. You know, a lot of the things that we've praised some of those S tier rivals for. I think Gladion fits that bill.
Do you know, weirdly enough, I think I'd probably put him in B tier, but that's only really because I prefer Lily.
Okay.
And
yeah,
there maybe wasn't enough of me of Gladion stepping up and being a big brother. And I really like Lily in that story. So I would put Lily in A and probably Gladion in B, but I'm happy to leave him in A. I know people like him. He was also better in the anime. Trace, go ham, sir.
Oh my god! So, for those that don't know, because I remember the first time I was told this guy's name was Trace, I was like, "Oh, okay, right." That I did not know that. So, this is the rival in Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. So, believe it or not, you are not playing as Red in that game. You're playing as a brand new character. Blue exists in that game, but he isn't your rival. He isn't the gym leader. He just shows up at multiple places. So, you've got Trace now. Trace, for all intents and purposes, fills in for Blue in terms of the fight. So he starts with the journey on you. You meet him on several routes in the same locations throughout the game, and ultimately he is the rival that manages to beat the Elite Four before you arrive there, and then you have to beat him as the champion fight. He is, for all intents and purposes, a worse version of Blue. He's like if Blue and Barry had a baby, and then they decided to make him even lamer. He is just terrible in every single way. He's boring. He's so vanilla. There's no redeeming qualities about him. Like they all they needed to do was just take Blue and throw him in. And that I'm sorry, I'm actually assassinating Trace right now, but I kind of feel like he deserves it, because he does feel like out of all these rivals, he's the most unlayered, uncomplex, most safe version that they could have had for Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. And I get why they decided that, because this was seen as a jumping on point for players that enjoyed Pokemon Go and wanted their first Pokemon game. Unfortunately, what we got lumbered with is Trace. He is uninspiring. He's just, oh my god, I actually think he's D tier.
I will back you up here and say that I also think that Gen 6 was designed as a jumping on point for a lot of people. The gym leaders and the Elite Four were a lot easier than usual. The Mega Evolution button was basically just a insta-win button a lot of the time. I think it's one of the easier games, and because of that, they went, well, we can't have too complex of a character.
Yeah.
And it feels like they did the exact same in Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. It's baby's first Pokemon. We can't have a complex rival. So yeah, I would agree with D tier.
Yeah, he's not. I mean, apparently he's in Pokemon Evolutions. I need to watch Pokemon Evolutions because there's apparently a lot of good episodes from what I've just seen. I'm looking forward to watching that. So I'm hoping that does him justice in some way.
I thought I'd seen all that, but okay.
I thought I had, but there's some episodes I have definitely not seen. So yeah. Okay, so Hop. Good old Hop. Hop is one of those characters that, like How, gets a lot of hate, and I think that hate is undeserved. He goes through an amazing emotional arc. You've got to look at it from his point of view. I think we've mentioned before about like
It's Hop's story.
It is Hop's story. Like, your main character doesn't really speak. He just kind of follows through. He doesn't really have any agency.
If you weren't there, it would be about a younger brother stepping up and proving himself to his family name, which is supposed to be undefeatable.
Yeah.
And whether or not he lives up to that. And I still don't think he would if you weren't there. I think he would still end up where he is and like a Pokemon professor instead. But that's the point. If he would still end up in the same place and you weren't there, what if I don't know how to explain this one. Hop's just a really good guy who gets shafted because your character exists.
Oh, agreed. Yeah, you're basically the chosen one in the Pokemon franchise, as you always are in every Pokemon game. You are the best trainer, despite being, really young, new to the region, whatever it is. You're just all powerful, all knowing, whatever it might be. And that unfortunately means that Hop is left in this position where he's thrown around by you every single time you battle. And Hop isn't a bad trainer. He's you go through the vast majority of Pokemon games and trainers are just thick because they all only have one or two Pokemon. They're under leveled. They have random move sets and they're all the same typing. So technically Hop is like, top tier in terms of battling because he actually puts together a well-balanced team. He is not afraid to cycle out some of his Pokemon, as we see as he loses and he reshapes his team. He gets beaten by you. He gets beaten by Bede. He just gets thrown left and right. And despite the fact there are moments in the game where actually his character becomes quite upset, sad, disappointed, under all that, he still maintains that optimism, that friendship, that devotion, that upbeat attitude to his brother as well. There's a lot of character in Hop, which is absolutely phenomenal. And he just gets a lot of hate for being annoying. And I actually, you know what? As someone that has played Sword several times and gone from the point of, oh, he's really annoying, to actually, he has quite a complex narrative throughout the story.
He has a full breakdown after Bede beats him.
He does.
And I'm pretty sure it's after that he keeps switching his team out every single time you fight him because he's like, no, I need to go again. I need to start from scratch. Something I'm doing is wrong. It's like, no, buddy, stop, breathe. You're overthinking this. And he starts panicking about like how he's throwing his balls out, and does his own. The one that gets me is he does his brother's slap on the face, and it's like, that's not your warm up. That's not how you psych yourself up. And it's about Hop discovering who he is. And again, I've already said that's a story that appeals to me massively. It broke me with Bianca. It never quite got there with Hop, but I see where he's at and I can see where he goes. And I find it really unfortunate that... So I've not played the final part of the DLC where you can choose your partner and go through the All-Star Cup. If in that Hop doesn't do the double slap, I'll be happy. But I haven't seen that, so I don't know. It's kind of a shame for me that Hop shows up to the league, because I'd have kind of liked him to go, oh, no. I helped defeat Eternatus. Even my brother couldn't beat Eternatus. I got nothing to prove anymore. I'm better. I'm out.
Yeah,
I'm done.
I can see that. I
got a legendary Pokemon, mate. What are you going to do? What? Who are you?
And thinking about that Eternatus fight, actually, like, I played Pokemon Sword, so that meant that my character had Zacian and Hop had Zamazenta, which fit perfectly, I think, because it's almost like I'm the offensive powerhouse and Hop is like that defensive shield of no matter what comes his way, he eventually manages to shake it off and he is able to overcome his challenges, his negativity, whatever it might be, and it fit really well. And unlike... I'm just looking at the rival. Unlike your Gen 6 of the X and Y rivals, who are there with you during, the climax with Xerneas or Yveltal, and it doesn't feel like they should be there. Hop feels like he should definitely be there for that big climactic battle where, him, his double of all Pokemon to face down Eternatus. Eternatus is crazy. But he feels like he should definitely be there and part of the story. And you know what? There's a lot to love about this character, his development, his growth throughout the story. And I don't think he is as annoying as many people think. And you know what? I actually think, and I might get some comments about this, I actually think he is S tier because he fits so many fantastic elements of what makes a memorable rival. I don't know what you think about that.
I was leaning close to A. I think S is a little bit of a stretch. But I'm also not opposed. I'm not opposed to it.
Okay.
There's not enough arguments that I can make. I've made it. We both agree that this is a good character. I think we both brought each other around on this a couple of times.
Yes.
And I like Hop. I mean, we're also British, so Hop's the first rival that says bruv.
Bruv. So yeah, he even dresses like some of the typical northern people that I've met before, which is fantastic. Bede. Oh, Bede. Again, cut from some of the same cloth as Silver. I feel like he's, it's one of the great things about Sword and Shield actually is you've got your three rivals, but they're all very distinct in their own different way. They all have their own kind of challenges, what they're trying to accomplish, their own stories as well. And it is a real shame that actually your player character is there, because I would love to play as one of these three and see their story from start to finish and actually have their character development and speaking points. And Bede is one of them that you like Hop in some ways. You see his highs and you really see his lows, like when he's actually kicked out of the competition because of what he does to the that famous mural, which looks like a bunch of 6-year-olds are painted on a wall. But seeing Bede just like when he first turns up and he's got this attitude problem, and then just thinking, oh, I know exactly where this story's going. We're going to battle him a couple of times, and then we get to the end, we beat him. And it doesn't go that way, which is fantastic. He gets booted out, then he gets recruited, then he turns up at the end in the tournament and interrupts it, and then has this monologue of, "Yeah, I was wrong. I'm sorry. But I still want to fight this guy." Is just fantastic. It's brilliant.
I'm representing the fairy gym this time round. Fight me. And it's like, all right, I'm about it.
Cool.
Again, him getting picked up as the fairy gym leader just because he's wearing pink, even though there's definitely more purple.
Yes.
Sure. Weird. I think he needed a strange old lady to pick him up and be like, I'm going to shake some real life into you. Because he's privileged. And this is kind of what I love about the Gen 7 trio. Because you've got endorsed by the champion in Hop and trying to live up to that. You've got endorsed by a gym leader and trying to live up to that in Marnie. And you've got endorsed by the chairman and trying to live up to that. And only one of those has, Marnie's got her own reasoning for doing things. She's actually trying to save her town and put it on the map and things like that. Bede doesn't really have this connection to Pokemon. When he destroys that mural, he's doing a side job for Rose in trying to collect Galar particles and things like that. And you can see that he's just trying to get ahead by being a smarmy suck-up. He's like, no, I'm in with the chairman, so I'm better than you. And I like him. I like him as a character. I think what he does to Hop is brutal.
But at the same time, though, that's just part of the Pokemon competition. That is something that actually, it's the first time we really see it in Pokemon in terms of that absolute put down, that beat down. But I'd imagine if you were in the Pokemon world, that would just be a regular occurrence of, you beat people, you lose to people, you get absolutely trounced by people. It's like football. Like sometimes you beat a team like 1-0 and the following week you get absolutely battered 5-0. It's just one of those things where, the wrong day or the right day, depending on, whose point of view you're looking at. And, I think like credit to Bede that, despite his, upbringing and trying to go it his own way, he kind of realizes, okay, this is actually where I went wrong, and I need to I need to, fix this issue. But what I like is the fact that he actually does it in his own way. In terms of, him turning up at the tournament at the end is a very Bede thing to do. I feel like,
still that air of entitlement. Like, yes, of course I can just walk out onto the field and demand to have this battle.
Yep, definitely. So where we ranking Bede? I think he's A tier, but only because I think that we're very lucky with Hop that he ties in so strongly with Leon, and we get to see a lot of his story from start to finish. Whereas Bede's story feels like it's missing that kind of confrontation with Rose at some point. It needs that conclusion. And I know we get a conclusion in terms of where he eventually ends up, but there's not the element of, okay, what does that mean for his relationship
he never
with him
gets
and
to
Rose?
call Rose out and say, you turned your back on me and all I was doing what you told me to do. You threw me under the bus to save face. This is your comeuppance.
And I think that would have been a better end story than what we got, where Rose just decides to go a little bit mad and try to fix an issue that won't happen for another 1,000 years. It should have been Rose almost gets, by throwing Bede under the bus, Bede has information that basically brings Rose's downfall, and then Leon
so Rose
steps
has
up.
to act. Rose has to act faster because it's all going to come crumbling down otherwise.
That would have been a lot better, and it would have tied up Bede's story of realizing, oh, actually, you know what? Despite the fact that you gave me all this, I need to be a better person than you. So I think he's just missing a little bit of an element, which I think would have definitely pushed him into S tier.
Yep. Marnie, our punk rock princess. I love Marnie. I think she's great. I think it's a great character, great characterization. I love that she comes from this, like, really... What's the opposite of well-to-do? Put down town. It's very poor, basically.
It is.
It's very poor. It's very rough. It's the only gym in the entire region that doesn't have a Dynamax zone. That's how put down it is. And it's great that she enters this championship and her town really get behind her. And they're like, this girl, we believe in her so much. She's our girl. She's going to put us on the map. She's going to show people what Spikeneth is all about. Sure, they go about it the wrong way. Football hooligans often do. I mean, I like her brother. I really wish I got to hear his song. That gym fight is always really weird.
It really is. There's no sound whatsoever. It's strange.
But Marnie is great. I enjoy Marnie every time I see her. I don't think she's S tier. I think she's A tier.
I agree. I think that, one of the things I like about Marnie is that just that presence in terms of design, but also the supporting cast of characters that she has around her. Her story brings in her brother Piers, and the story that you go on in terms of, that end game content where Piers is helping you is fantastic. I think that, Marnie is in A tier. But unlike Bede, where I think that Bede's story is just missing a few elements, I don't think Marnie's is. I think Marnie has a very strong story from start to finish. And you know what? The more I think about this, the more I feel like this is the one game that's probably missing a bit of an epilogue, I feel like.
We unfortunately had our stupid Swordward and Shieldbert story that was completely unnecessary because all the parts you needed for a good story was here. Because I can't remember if she takes over the gym.
I can't remember either.
I think she does, because I remember seeing her in her gym kit. I remember she shows up in her gym kit at some point.
Yeah, I vaguely remember them talking about it, but I can't remember because isn't the brother wants her to take over, but she doesn't.
Yeah, that was my thinking.
I'm just trying to read on. I can't find it on Bulbapedia, but there's like a massive article, so I'm not going to be able to find it. I don't know. Are you frantically googling by any chance?
I'm going to very quickly. No, not Marine.
Oh yeah, so Piers plans to retire his title after the Champion Cup. Piers planned on offering the position to her, but Marnie refuses, telling her she can't be a gym leader if she becomes champion. Okay, the player leaves Spikemouth at that point. So then it all gets interrupted.
So yes, she does become gym leader.
Oh, does she?
You stop her from becoming champion, and she does become a gym leader, and she shows up as gym leader Marnie later on in the game.
Oh, does she? Right. Okay. Oh, you know what? The more I think about this, the more Sword and Shield need a sequel.
I'd be
Feels
down for
like it. I would be wild down for a Sword and Shield sequel. Right. Okay. So we've got the DLC rivals now. The one on the left, the guy with the psychic powers. I haven't played Pokemon Swords DLC. So
we've both played. Well, we've both played Sword, haven't we?
Swords, yeah. So I can talk a little bit about. Is it Clara off the top of my head? So you know what? The only rival, as far as I'm aware, that actually cheats in a Pokemon battle, and I love it. Yep. Absolutely love it. She's not afraid to play dirty. The fact that I'm trying to remember what it is. Isn't it where you start the Pokemon battle and toxic spikes already set up on your side because she went out and she set up the toxic spike, so you throw out it's absolutely phenomenal. I love it. I love the fact that she reacts in probably the way that most of the rivals should react, in terms of, wait, this newcomer's come in and is suddenly amazing at everything, and all the hard work and effort that I've put in is just being overlooked and overshadowed. And the fact that despite that, whenever I'm having to go out in the Isle of Armor and do different things, I'm always coming second place, but I'm still being put down and looked down upon. And I get why she reacts the way that she does. Don't get me wrong, I don't condone cheating, but I can understand why she would do it.
I love that she's got the crazy eyes.
She's definitely got the crazy eyes.
She's definitely got the crazy eyes a number of times. And
yeah,
I think for that, it's hard to put him in S. I don't think the DLC has enough story to put him into S, but I think even with the little bit of story we got, I still think they're A. I think they're fantastic every time I see them. Absolutely
agreed. And I think that she's one of those people where actually I think she'd fit in really well as a if they'd have just put her in as one of the rivals in the main game, I think it would have just elevated it even higher. And you know, one of the things I do like about her is she comes across quite sweet and innocent. So the first time you battle her, she's got the Pokeball, she like pushes on it, she's dead sweet. But then the longer that DLC goes on, the more you think, actually, this woman's a little bit unhinged. But I can understand why she's a little bit unhinged, because she's been like the top of the game for so long, and suddenly your character comes in and it ups her. But yeah, she's absolutely fantastic. Definitely deserving of A tier, which is fantastic.
We have no idea about Avery, who is her counterpart, so we're just gonna shove him in A and assume they're the same character.
Yeah, just throw him in there. I can't see how different it would be, but obviously let us know in the comments. So Nimona, quite possibly I would say the strongest champion out of all of these in terms of the lore of the game. She's the one that has beaten the champion, held it for a very long time, and is basically, and I can't remember who told me this, I don't know if it was you, she's basically playing New Game Plus at this point in the game, because she
creates a whole new team just to go against you.
Just to go against you, which is phenomenal, because like some people might point out the fact that, oh, she's a champion and she's just like, you know, where are all her ace Pokemon? Well, that would be a little bit boring from a gameplay perspective. At the first time you battle her, she's already got 6 Pokemon in their 70s and 80s. So, of course, they had to nerf her in some way. But I think it's quite nice the way that they do that in terms of, like, say, New Game Plus, because she just rocks up when you're choosing your start, and she's like, can I have one? And
I never got one. Well, I already had Pokemon when I showed up here. I never got a starter. Can I go on a journey? Can I do it again?
It's absolutely fantastic. And I love that about her. I love the fact that she's so, you know, she's out of all the rivals, she's the one that's like rooting for you, which is phenomenal. Like all the rest are like, I'm gonna beat you. She's like, I lost. This is amazing. Like I never lose. I'm so happy to lose, and I can't wait to see like how much stronger you're going to be, because she is ultimately in this for, I don't mind if I lose these little battles because I'm helping you get stronger. It's that big fight at the end. That's what I'm working towards. Is, are you going to be strong enough to beat me? Because I see potential in you, and the fact that she helps you on this journey is fantastic and something that we haven't seen before.
So, can I admit something?
Go on.
Nemona's half the reason my channel died.
What? Go on. Why? What?
So, I was writing a video about Nemona, and the research just didn't stop. The basic premise of it was Nemona was very good representation for autism within Pokemon.
Okay.
So Nemona is somebody who is incredibly focused on Pokemon battles. That's her thing. Every time she jumps into a conversation, it's about Pokemon battles now. When she overhears other people talking about Pokemon battles, she jumps in because she's really interested in Pokemon battles. Every time you beat her, like she's usually really like pent up and ready. Every time you beat her, she starts twiddling her hair. She starts stimming by twiddling her hair.
Her little, yeah.
There's also a part at the end of the game when you're down in Area 0 where Penny starts making sarcastic comments, and it goes straight over Nemona's head. She does not comprehend the idea of sarcasm at all.
Yeah. The more you talk about this, the more I'm just thinking of my daughter who has autism, because probably enough, we went on holiday recently. We went recently on holiday and we're talking about sarcasm, funnily enough. And I basically made a sarcastic comment about, oh, you don't get sarcasm. And it just completely over her head. But I know it now that you're pointing these things out. I'm like, actually, yeah, I kind of see where you're coming from.
And then there's this beautiful moment in the post game where she turns around and says, everybody thinks I'm this amazing Pokemon trainer, and I didn't have to work for it. Basically, she's complaining that everybody's calling her savant. You know, this idea of like, well, autistic people are just good at maths. They just know all the trains kind of thing. And it's like, no, I worked for this the same as everybody else. And because I still want to have this feeling of friendship and I still want people to not hate me, I have to tone myself down. I have to put on a mask when I'm around other people and not go all out. You as the player character are the only person she has ever felt comfortable going all out with over and over and over again. You are the only person who has accepted her for who she is and lets her be herself in an unmasked form. I really, really wish I had it in me to write this video, but the more I went into it, the more I had to, I came under the realization that I might be the first person talking to people about autism, and I'd have to present it correctly, and there's so much information.
So complicated.
And so easy to provide a false narrative, even unintentionally. And I'd seen other people do it where they'd related certain characters to autistic people, and people were like, oh, why are you drawing all this? It broke me a little bit. But that's my view of Nemona. I think she's S tier, and I will fight anybody who says she's creepy.
I completely agree with you on every single point. I think she's definitely S tier. I think that now that you've mentioned some of these points, I'm like, I can see some of those tells. And you know what? I've been thinking I need to go back and play Scarlet and Violet again. So I'm definitely going to view her in a different angle now. I'm really looking forward to that, because there are certain things you've said that relate so much to my daughter, in terms of like, there'll be times where she just butts into a conversation and like just start talking about Pokemon or Mario or something else like that. And for other people, they'll be like, where's the link there? But me as her dad, I'm like, oh no, I get exactly what the link is, like the multiple chains that have gotten her to go, oh yeah, I can talk about this because they are in some way, talking about something similar. And you know what? Yeah, I can see that in Nimona now that you've mentioned it, and completely agree that it is S tier, and I can completely understand why that research would be never ending, because like say it's such a interesting and dangerous topic in terms of people not understanding, coming into it and that being their first point and going, well, hold on, you've misunderstood this. And I think that
everyone's an individual, so
yes.
Describing what one character, like, I was never ever going to be like, oh, I am diagnosing her. I'm not a trained qualified professional. However, I see traits, and it's, hey, same hat.
same hat. I think that she's definitely ST, and she is one of the better rivals. And you know what? I'm looking at this thinking we've got a rival from Gen 1, Gen 2, Gen 5, Gen 7, Gen 9 in there. Like, that's a lot of strong rivals that we've had.
And 3, 4, and 7 are all in A tier.
Yeah. Like, I will admit that despite and I've said this before on the channel, despite the frustrations with Game Freak in terms of, how they play it very safe sometimes, at least with the rivals, they never just carbon copy and repeat. They always look at the rivals and do a fresh take on them. And some work better than others, but I think that all of them work in some way.
Yeah. I mean, except Trace.
Trace can do one, but let's be honest with you. Pokemon Let's Go, Pikachu and Eevee are not considered mainline games. They are spin-offs, and we can completely ignore them. I believe that's the end of the show, unless you have anything else.
I think so.
Okay, I'm going to do a quick plug. If you haven't already, check out my channel. I've got a few new shorts there, which are doing really well. I've got a Pokemon Xenoverse playthrough, so it's a fan-made game. So we're not calling it ROM hacks anymore. It's a fan-made game that follows a Pokemon trainer in a region that I cannot pronounce, tracking down X-Pokemon that are from a mysterious dimension. So I'm looking forward to seeing where that goes. I'm still recording it as it goes on. And that's the show for this week. If you've gotten this far, you're just top dollar, aren't you? Before you go, we really appreciate it if you could leave a review on the podcast platform of your choice. If you're watching it on YouTube, then please leave a like, as it really helps our podcast to reach new people. If you've got a comment or question, you can reach us by leaving a comment on our podcast on YouTube, by emailing goldenrodpod@gmail.com, or by leaving it on our Discord channel. Conor, where can we find you?
You can find me on my YouTube channel at Captain Fidget.
And I'm Ben. You can find us Professor Hoeing Gaming on YouTube. We'll be back next Friday for another week of Pokemon podcast content.
See ya!
Floods of flash.